Man, I changed it up, man. I changed it up this time, man.
No hoodie, huh?
No hoodie, man. I saw your shirt that said rebel. So I said, man, let me go ahead and start stepping my game up.
Oh yeah, today you can't see the full fledged, man, but
Yeah, I see you, man.
it said keep the immigrants, deport the racists.
Right, right, right. Because the racists were the first immigrants.
You know, like they the ones that's the problem, yo.
Mm-hmm. They so are.
You know,
Yeah,
man.
man.
Look, I gotta shoot, I gotta get my mind right, bro, doc. Like, yo, DeSantis got me fucked up.
Listen, so man, I tweeted about DeSantis, man. Well, I didn't tweet about him, but I just said, you know, the election, that gubernatorial election between DeSantis and
Hello.
Andrew Bill. I said, man, that really confirmed that at the end of the day, I live in the Jim Crow South.
Doc.
We both do.
Doc.
We live in the listen. You know, Florida still have, like these stand your ground laws.
Mm-hmm.
They're just a revolutionized or upgraded black codes. These are the things that give those who carry badges who are not whole to kill people like you and I and other people who are part of our community. Our sons and our daughters, our mothers and our fathers.
And not even just a badge, man. Stand your ground. You don't need no badge. George
You don't
Zimmerman
need
ain't
no
had no
badge.
badge.
You see George Zimmerman, he ain't had no badge.
Shoot.
He ain't had no badge, so yeah, you don't need that. It's another way to keep white supremacy and these races, ideology intact.
But you know, Doc,
yeah,
since this is blacks with power, right?
right.
I want to look at the real issue for me at least.
Mm-hmm.
When is enough for us? You know what I mean? Like, so you read on the news last night, Ron DeSantis, governor of Florida, promoting this bill to make protesting a felony. And people can disagree or agree about that because some people get into the weeds, and even some black folk get into the weeds. Well, they talking about if you destroying property, so on and so forth. When we always know how they play with those lines. But be that as it may, whatever you may want to say about that, the piece in the bill that makes it legal for you to assault somebody, hit a protester with your car if you're fleeing a mob, when we already have seen that this is the new tactic that they use in these protests. They drive through these protests all over the country. They've been driving through protests ever since they killed Heather Heyer in Charlottesville. They've been using that tactic. And for the governor to legalize it, right? I'm like, why do we even want to live in a place where people can consider such action? Forget whether or not it's going to become law. But the mere fact that someone can consider that as a legitimate tool, to consider that sort of action as a response that needs to be protected by law, that needs to be given license by the rule of law. So the law is going to determine and rule that it is okay for somebody to run me over when they feel like it's a mob. And then I'm also supposed to obey the rule of law. But we do. We keep appealing to the rule of law when we don't rule the law. And I'm like, man, you know, when is enough for us, man? When do we start saying that, you know what, we need to make sure, I'm all for rule of law, let's make sure that we rule the law. I mean, that's why I was talking to you earlier in the text messages about a black state, man. If we were to create a black state, if we were to all, you know, engage a Move to Georgia campaign, right? A nationwide Move to Georgia campaign, and create a black state, turn Georgia black. Forget turning it blue, forget turning it red, turn it black. If we were to turn Georgia black, there'd be no way, except black inferiority, for there to be laws that do not regard the mattering of black life as an essential reality.
So, man, this is what I'm gonna say to that, because I'm a proponent of history, right? And so, you know, we're talking in text, so we just gonna bring our text messages to the forefront. So I text my brother a song by the Gap Band.
She turned me up, baby.
Yeah. You dropped the plum on me. And man, we've seen it etched in this nation that if we stay and we make, let's just say we make Georgia a black state. You know, there are 19 families in the state of Georgia that has bought, you know, acres of land. They're replatting the land. They're clearing it out. They're gonna build a community. Listen, commendable. I'm with it. I love it. You know, we pool our resources. Listen, we can secede from the Union and declare foreign aid if we want to, right?
But you know, I wouldn't even say secede from the Union. You know, the beautiful thing about the Republican form of democracy, right? Mm-hmm. As a person who is a libertarian, I am a libertarian. Folk don't believe me, you can Google Jabril Ballantine libertarian. There'll be an interview from about 12 years ago, 15 years ago. Libertarian Party once wanted me to be the chair of the DC Libertarian Party, but again, they ain't had no political clout. There was no favors that I could give. There's no libertarian governors, there's no libertarian senators. You know, politics is all about favors. But as a libertarian, understanding that this Republican form of democracy, it creates for a state to be whatever a state wants to be, states' rights. Once you control the politics and the economics of that state can be whatever the state wants to be. If the socialists want to form a state somewhere, they could form a state. If they get enough, the libertarian move was, oh, let's go to Vermont. I think it's Vermont or New Hampshire, one of them states. Let's go up there and let's all move there. And once we become, you know, the balance of power, we can make a state libertarian. We ain't got to secede from the Union. You ain't getting black folks to secede from the Union. You can't get black folks to even think about going to the U.S. Virgin Islands, and it's still U.S. But now you ain't got to secede from the Union. Still be loyal to the Union. Loyal to the Union, not to white folks. Loyal to the Union, to the republic for which we would stand if it was our state. If it was our state, I tell you what, we would be standing for the national anthem, because in our state, Black lives would matter.
So this is what I'm going to say to that. Remember, I'm a historian. If we don't secede from the Union, we got to look at the history. Here's what's going to happen. We have tried. Now, we may not have made a black state, but we made some black cities. Tulsa was a black city.
Ain't matter though. We ain't had a state. Look.
So here's what
historian. I'm saying. Let me find it for you, historian. Keep going. Keep going, Doc. I'm gonna find it for you, historian.
No, we haven't had a state. Never. But here's what I'm saying. If we stay within these United States, you know what they can do? Whatever they want to do. Whatever they've been doing.
No. Here's why I say that.
Right. Talk to me.
And this is why I always said it's got to be a coastal state, and now I have settled on Georgia. It's got to be a coastal state because you got to have defense. You got to have access to trade, because they will try to shut you down. And if we got a coastal state, we can get trade. We can get with the African continental free trade agreement coming into order, we be the best source for access to the American economy, the American market. Anything coming out of Africa comes through Georgia in our ports. Can't shut down our economy. You got to have a coast, because you got to have the 3 branches of the National Guard. You got to have an Air National Guard, a Naval National Guard, an Army National Guard. A city ain't work because we ain't had no National Guard. You can come at us if you want to. We got an Army National Guard, an Air National Guard, and a Naval National Guard.
We do?
No, I'm saying if we have a state.
All right, so let's talk about it. Let's talk about this state. So we would need an Army National Guard, right? We would need a Naval National Guard, and we would need an Air National Guard, right? I totally agree with that. We're gonna need somebody who can defend our borders, right?
Mm-hmm.
And here's the other thing: when we're talking about defending the borders, that means we got to be able to go toe to toe. We got to be able to go toe.
Look,
so let's go back. Let's go back in history, right? The American Revolution, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Second Amendment was about creating a militia
Mm-hmm.
to fight against the greatest army at that time of the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they did that.
Mm-hmm.
They did that. The Civil War was the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
We saw how that happened. We saw how that ended, right?
Mm-hmm.
My question is, if we're going to create a black state, do we have, I ain't even going to say economic, because we know that African Americans will be probably the 8th wealthiest, something like that, right? Country in the world. We got money. That ain't no question about that. We got money. Now, we may not have a lot of it, but we can pull our resources together. All right, another question for another source. But here's the main question. Do we have the military?
Dude, again, if you're talking about a state, you do. Look, right now we are 30% of the population in Georgia. If we get up to a population where we can control the state elections, where the governor, the state legislature will be black.
Yeah, that's yeah. So
we control the Army National Guard, the Naval National Guard, the Air National Guard. Now, understand, some constitutional scholars will argue that and this is why, these white folks can go to hell with this shit about their militias, right? Because would argue that the well-regulated militia that is enshrined and protected in the Constitution really refers to the National Guard, which is why the National Guard is controlled by the governors. It is well-regulated, quote unquote. Ain't nobody regulating these damn militias out there.
No.
So right. We would have constitutionally sound. We would have a well-regulated militia. And that's why I'm clear that it got to be a state. A city is not good enough because a city does not have a well-regulated militia. A state does.
That's what I'm saying. That's my question. Now you're drawing to my question. Do we have? Because when we talk about
no, we do. Wait a minute. No. We don't. A state does. A state, as a given, does. And once you control the state, you do.
Okay. So how will we do that? How will we regulate our militia?
What do you mean? The governor controls the National Guard.
So here's what I'm saying.
So when we turn the state politically black, economically black, we control a regulated militia.
Okay. Yeah. What I'm looking at is simply this. I'm not arguing against the policies. You know what I'm saying? Of regulation and control. I'm not arguing against that. What I'm arguing against is is if we ever became a black state, how do we protect, and let me be American for a minute, our borders?
Wait a minute.
You know,
Easily.
So he won't
Easily.
So I know it's easily theoretically. I'm talking about practically.
I'm talking about practically.
Do we have skilled? Do we have very skilled? Do we have a very skilled military?
Brother. You would have the National Guard. You would deploy the National Guard. The governor would deploy the National Guard to protect the borders.
Okay. Because we would not have seceded from the Union, is what you're saying.
Exactly.
Okay.
You don't need to secede from the Union.
Okay. I got you. Now,
even before you get into need the National Guard, you're talking about the state troopers are controlled by blacks. The state police are controlled by blacks. The sheriffs are controlled by blacks. All of law enforcement is controlled by black power.
Mm-hmm. 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 Now let's flip it, because there's something that you said. I just like to have these conversations. I like to play devil's advocate.
Don't advocate for the devil, brother. The devil got enough advocates in this society, man.
So true. So we got, to that being said, you know, the advocates that forms militias, right, who would try to go and fight against the state. Because, I mean, I'm thinking about...
They would lose. But they would lose. I mean, right now, those militias that exist would not take on any National Guard in the country.
Not while they're there, right?
You know, exactly. You know what I mean? If like, for instance, when which one of those states? I think it was Minnesota deployed the National Guard, and at the same time, them damn crazy militias was uprising too, in the same state. If those militias knew that the National Guard was looking at them, they go back home. I don't care how much ARs they got. I ain't care how much tanks they got. They ain't fighting the National Guard. So them militias, like the McMichaels who killed Ahmaud Arbery, man, they're gonna leave Georgia. If we run Georgia, they're gonna leave. They'll be kicking and screaming, but they're gonna decide they ain't staying here around these niggas. They're gonna leave. And that's fine. That's the American way. You got the freedom to choose. If you don't like niggas, don't like niggas. Go somewhere else. Okay. When are we gonna take the freedom to choose that we don't want to be around white supremacists no more? That we freely choose, as Americans, we freely choose to band together and create a more perfect union. Since y'all ain't gonna help create a more perfect union for all of us, we gonna come together and make sure that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, endowed by their creator with certain inalienable rights such as life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And we gonna endeavor to form a more perfect union. You welcome to come and be with us, because we ain't gonna keep y'all out. Ain't about that. But it's about making sure that all lives matter, because Black lives matter.
Doc, you preaching, Doc.
So I'm like, to me, that's the only salvation for America right now, man. Like I said, the governor of Florida gonna institute a law that gonna legalize hitting me with a car.
Yeah.
Man, I ain't fighting that. Why am I fighting that? Dude, why am I, if you want to go to hell that bad, man, go ahead and go. I tried to told you. But if you want to go to hell that bad, man, have at it. I mean, we free now. I always used to say states' rights. We can go back to states' rights. I believe in states' rights. And yes, these Southern folks wanted states' rights to entail keeping people enslaved. But remember, that was after they themselves, conservatives themselves, Republicans themselves, or the Democrats at that time themselves, the slaveholder, the vitriolic white supremacists themselves, did not like states' rights. before, because them northern states didn't want to return their niggas. And those states say we have the right to allow them to be free when they come here. And they say, you can't do that. But the minute they got control back again, they're like, states' rights, stay away from us. Well, okay, states' rights. And if any state if Florida want to go to the state, use their state rights to subjugate niggas, we are free to leave now. We ain't got to stay here. Why am I fighting? Man, once these white folks have enough hard labor, they'll get over that shit. Once enough of us leave and it's only them left to do the hard work, look, they're going to recant on all that nonsense real quick because they ain't trying to do that work. It's beneath them.
Man, and I want to say this too, to your point, is that, you know, I feel like, man, the conversation that we're having on, on this platform, man, it's similar to some of the other leaders who believed in, us going back to the motherland. It's kind of the similar argument when you look at things. You know what I'm saying? Here's something I can say to your point is that it has never been tried in the history of this country. Never. Now I
gotta find that because somebody talked about it. I gotta find where that was.
Now I'm not gonna say it has never been discussed. Oh, it's been discussed.
Yeah,
but
it's been
about implementing it into a reality.
Right. Nah.
You know what I'm saying?
It ain't been that.
It ain't been that.
It ain't been that. That argument was made by, there was a brother that made that argument once before. Tried to get black folks to do it. Tried to get the state, the country to support it. But that it didn't work. It didn't work. I'll find it while we having this conversation, man, because it's important for us to know and understand, because we think that these things are new ideas.
Right.
Like, this is a crazy idea. Look at this nigga here talking about us creating our own state, man. I found it. I found it, man. That less well known. This is Rutherford B. Hayes' work, our frat brother. Rayford Logan's work, our frat brother, on the betrayal of the Negro from Rutherford B. Hayes to Woodrow Wilson. And says that less well known than the Exodus of 1879, that's when the Great Migration started. The Exodus of 1879 is the attempt of a colored man, Edwin P. McCabe, to create a Negro state out of the Oklahoma Territory. He wanted to do it. He said arrangements were said to have been made for 5,000 families to migrate to Oklahoma, but the federal government provided no aid to this project. And then President Harrison granted McCabe an interview, talked to him about the idea, but took no steps to support the enterprise. This movement failed. Brother Logan says this movement failed not only because of the lack of federal support and private financial assistance, but also because of the hostility of both Indians and whites. So,
say that again, both
Indians and whites.
One more time for the Holy Ghost.
Indians and whites.
We as a black people have been hard pressed on every side, because to your point, and that's why I was asking these questions, because I just wanted you to really dig, and you did that, because at the end of the day, maybe what this idea of freedom looks like, it can be realistically etched in this notion. Think about it. Think about it. If folk who have hard pressed us on every side of fighting us tooth and nail to make it happen, what does it say? To your point.
Exactly. And why are we still fighting them? It's like we still beating our head against a brick wall. We ain't found another way around this beast yet. We still headwinds. We still kicking against the goads. When the Lord told Paul, it is useless to be kicking against the goads, man. Why don't we fight a different way? Say, you know what? Okay, okay. Man, forget raising money for Joe Biden. I'm gonna raise money to get my own state. I'm gonna raise money to move black folk who can't afford to move but really want to move over to our state. We're gonna all move to our state. Forget raising millions and billions of dollars in the hopes that some white man gonna make the rest of white people act right.
So let me ask you this question. If we make a state, right? And we're not gonna secede from the union, then how important is the vote?
How important is what vote?
Our vote. Because if we're not gonna secede from the union, that means we're gonna be a part of this whole system, right?
But wait a minute. Then our vote becomes important. Now, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong, right? It's gonna be tough on the national perspective. It's gonna be tough on the national perspective. And it's gonna be hella tough for black folk to live outside of this state. But within the borders of that state, man, you know how many states have survived, not even survived. You know how many states have thrived despite shitty ass federal policies that hurt them? States that have a plan, an idea, resources, an economic structure that is not dependent upon the federal government. I mean, that's what, every time they do it, Republican states under a Democratic president, they always structure themselves in ways that benefit them despite not being able to work with the federal government, and vice versa. Democratic governors under a Republican, I mean, all these Democratic governors are doing it now. They're showing you that it can be done. And while, yes, things were screwy all over, those states that will run well were all right despite the national bullshit. And what we would have politically is we would be able to guarantee 2 blacks on the Senate, in the US Senate. We would be able to guarantee a black state delegation to Congress. We'd be able to guarantee a black governor and black local officials. And then, because the only way we do it is as free Negroes, right? Like, you know, lamb chops play along Negroes ain't gonna take on this endeavor. Free Negroes will take on this endeavor because only free Negroes will even believe that it is possible for black folks to come together and form a state within the union. And those free-minded Negroes will be in a better position to make true allies with those whites in the rest of the country at congressional and senatorial levels that actually got sense.
I'm laughing so bad, Doc, because you said something there, man. Free Negroes. Listen, and I love words because you didn't say free African Americans. You didn't say free blacks. You ain't say free Afro Americans. You said free Negroes. So, man, explain the ideology behind that term, free Negro.
Oh man,
I think, man, we gotta hear this, man. The audience has to hear this, Doctor.
Look, Doc, you know, I was raised by a man, Kareem Menelik Ballantine, my father, and who was the second black, and he was only the second black by a few weeks, few months, second black chief deputy U.S. Marshal in the history of the country. One of his books, not his most recent book, but his most recent book is titled "Hired Because I'm Negro." His book before that was The Last Negro. And, you know, Negro, nigger, you know, because, you know, he tells you all the time, nigger is just plural of Negro, right? Negroes and negresses, and the plural of Negroes and negresses is niggas, you know? When you got a male group of Negroes and a female group of negresses, because that's what they used to call us, man, negresses. That's what they used to call us. A group of negresses and a group of Negroes, when you combine them, they became niggas.
Yep. It was alive and well.
And just like they said in the Word of God, and as a good Baptist, you can quote me chapter and verse. Just like they said in the Word of God, and in America is where they were first called nigger.
Lord Jesus, the book of Acts. They were called when they met in Antioch.
Uh-huh.
Listen, Antioch was when they was called Christian, but it was in the colonies in America, North America, where we were called Negroes.
And Christian, being a derogatory term of that time, was embraced and became what it is now. Maybe the first order of business is stop fighting nigger and just be nigger. Because just like the people of the way in Antioch found their blessedness by receiving and embracing the derogatory term of Christian. Blessed are you when they persecute you and say all kinds of evil against you falsely for my sake. Maybe it is realizing our blessedness when we remember that we are Negro and niggers. Negroes, negresses, and niggers.
Thus determining that word before Negro, free.
Right.
When you are free, when no one can call you out your name. Man, my dad used to teach me this, man. And that's major, man. I didn't know that about your dad, man.
Yeah.
So man, that, and here is the thing, man, this is why fathers matter. Because what fathers do, though mothers give us the love and the nurture, and they give us the tongue, the mother's tongue. Our fathers is who instills our identity, our wholeness. Man, my dad used to tell me, sticks and stones may break your bones, but words will never hurt you. And there are some people who will argue that and say, well, words do hurt. Well, words hurt if you give it power. And especially give it power from people who are trying to oppress you. And I think this is why that term free is so essential and it's so vital to who we are. Because when we are free, I want to say this, we'll do whatever it takes. I look at people like Harriet Tubman. I look at people like Nat Turner. I look at these other leaders like Henry McNeil Turner and Delaney and others. You know, the guy who you just mentioned in Frat Book. See, when you're free, you're gonna be thinking on a different plane.
Exactly.
And so, man, and so, you know, we've been talking about last week this whole idea of confrontation, confession, conviction, and conversion.
Mm-hmm.
Here's maybe a confrontation. I had to confront on this podcast. I'm like, man, create a black state, confront this thing. But in my confrontation, I was able to offer questions.
And then no one can say that we are not loyal to America. Right now they talk about we ain't loyal to America. We more loyal to America than y'all ever been.
Listen, our ancestors were loyal to America.
You know, from top to bottom, we've been loyal to a country that ain't never been loyal to us, and we still loyal. And that ain't no gripe, that ain't no complaint. That is a definition of patriotism.
Yep.
Y'all have not been loyal to us. That is the whole thing. The betrayal of the Negro. And so since we know and understand that y'all have never been loyal to us, have never had any intentions of being loyal to us, can't even acknowledge and admit that you have never been loyal to us, the best way that we can remain loyal to the state being the big state, the state of America, is to create our own state within the republic, where we can have a government that regards the mattering of Black life as an essential factor. And then we won't have to complain anymore. We don't have to fight anymore. I ain't got to argue with you about what you want to do. I ain't got to argue with you about what you're going to say. Y'all do what y'all do. And to the Black people who decide to stay in y'all state, the door is always open. And if you decide to stay there, then you live with what you live with. You can move to Georgia too. We don't have those problems here. We may have other problems even. We may. We don't have them problems.
Oh my God. Oh God.
Man, it's like I said to my mother, I'm like, Mom, I'm trying to get back home to the Virgin Islands, U.S. Virgin Islands. I'm trying to get back home. I'm like, yeah, don't get me wrong, prices, because she asked me, did you consider this? Did you consider that? Yeah, I know, prices are obscenely high. Yeah, I know, y'all on your 40th murder for the year, which is a lot in the Virgin Islands. Crime is out of control. But at the same time, you know, of course, let me add in the caveat for people who don't know anything about the Virgin Islands are just going to think, you know, about shithole countries, because Black folks do that worse than Trump. But we all should understand, just like we understand in the cities, that crime is high because ain't no damn opportunities, ain't no economy.
Yeah.
But what I said is, what I do not have to worry about is the threat of white supremacist violence. I don't have to worry about that in the Virgin Islands. Ain't gonna happen. There are white folks, and they may be racist, but they won't dare open their mouths. I ain't got worried on election day that there might be a Coe massacre part 2. I got worried about that here. We got worried about that in the States. You ain't got to worry about that in the Virgin Islands. If we had a Black state, you ain't got to worry about that there. Even in a climate like this, all we would do is secure our borders in Georgia, call out the National Guard, they secure the borders. Y'all keep that shit out of here. Negroes that want to flee the surrounding states and come, yeah, y'all can come on through. About time. Glad to see you. Welcome to Wakanda. But when them lynch mobs start rolling around from Tennessee and Florida and whatnot, trying to creep into our borders, talking about, oh, we found a nigga. Not here. Not here. Y'all can go back where y'all came from.
Yeah. 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 We just putting the idea, we just put this thing out in the space, because at the end of the day, you know, we're talking about, you know, this whole idea of remembering who we are. And part of that remembering who we are is looking at the tension that we have been facing. And we're still facing this. It's been over 400 years. You know what I'm saying? You know, we're going on 401 years.
Someone can still think that it's a reasonable solution to legalize running me over with a car.
Right.
That is somehow a reasonable solution.
The man who say, don't monkey this around, is the one that's saying, run them. Man, listen.
And we still trying to work it out. Like, yo, man, like, hey, y'all can have this. You know what I mean? Like, yo, y'all can have this. You know what? Hey, I tell you what, let's call a truce. Let's call a truce. And y'all give us all across the country, you know, you're like the Lord told Moses, tell the people to go to their neighbors and get them things for the journey. You know, go to your white allies, you know. on racial heresy, I told Case, I was like, maybe the white church need to just, them white allies, y'all need to understand, we know that we will betray you eventually. And so it is better for you now to leave. Here, we will fund your journey. We will help you.
Yeah, man. What? Yeah, come on. Let me call out some denominations. Come on, Southern Baptist Church. Come
right,
on and fund us. Come
right.
on, Ku Klux Klan. Come on and fund us. You know
Hey,
what I'm saying?
quietness kept. The Ku Klux Klan love Marcus Garvey.
Listen, the Grand Wizard, I forget his name, and Marcus Garvey, believe it or not, they were cool with one another.
Yeah. Like,
they were real cool with one another.
As long as you don't kill my people, we cool.
Yep, we cool.
I want to leave. I want to leave you alone. I want my people to get away from you. Y'all can have it. Y'all want it? Okay.
See, and that's and so when we talk about memory, and I said history, but it's really, man, the better word is memory.
Like you say, remembering what was dismembered.
Yes. So
that consciousness that you talk about, it was dismembered.
So what's the name of that book that you just mentioned again?
The Betrayal of the Negro, from Rutherford B. Hayes to Woodrow Wilson.
Yeah. So another book is The Miseducation of the Negro, right?
By Carter G. Woodson. Mm-hmm.
So all these years, we have been miseducated, and with miseducation comes betrayal. So when the sitting president of this country, 47 minus 2, goes to a black church in Detroit and they cover him in a prayer shawl and pray for him, and he gets up in our pulpit and says, "What do you have to lose?" He talks about our dilapidated schools, talks about our dilapidated neighborhoods, and then begs us the question, what do you have to lose? I'm going to use his rhetoric. What do we have to lose?
What do we have to lose? Really and truly, what do we have to lose in trying to create our own state?
So this is me confronting what I have been miseducated on. I am confronting. That's why I've been asking these questions, because these questions help me to confront. My confession and confrontation, they move like a flowing river. So I'm confronting my ideology that I've been taught. Because I'm trying to now be re-educated. I'm trying to be remixed. I'm trying to be revived, so that I can remember what has been dismembered from me. So this is the work that I'm doing. So yeah, man, I am confronting this whole thing, man, because I'm like, yo, if 19 families could pull their resources together and buy some land, why not expand it? Something to think about.
Indeed.
And these are what our leaders, our pivotal leaders in the 19th century. It wasn't that long ago.
They were talking about. They were talking
about this.
But that whole line of conversation got scared out of us. I don't know. It just that whole line of conversation was just like we don't even talk. We don't even have those conversations no more.
We've been miseducated.
And the tragedy in that reality is that we are people who live and die by education, supposedly.
And that's why we don't want to go nowhere, because see, our education has given us the resources that we have. And one of the things, I think it was, I don't want to quote it because I'm going to mess it up, but I heard a professor doing my doctoral journey. He quoted this quote from a workshop or a convention that he went to, and he said that that Black people, the reason why we are not willing to confront, and fight and resist those, ideologies is because we are secure. We're secure.
Mm-hmm.
Our jobs have secured us. Those funny letters that's behind me, we have security in that.
Mm-hmm.
We have security in our institutions. We have security allegedly on our jobs. We're making, some of us are making the most amount of money that any of our family put together.
But it ain't nothing new, bruh. Would we had died sitting by the flesh pots in Egypt eating bread to the full. But you brought us out here to die from hunger. They were secure. They were secure. They didn't want to leave behind. When the Lord gonna give up, little quail and some little flakes, call it bread. They were like, what is this? We ask you for food. You gonna tell us you the Lord God Almighty. We ask you for food and this what you giving us? They preferred the good things of bondage, the white man's shiny things, to freedom. They're like, hey, I'll take a little bondage if it means I get to have a nice car, good house. I'll take a little bondage. I'll take the threat of, my son or daughter getting killed by the police because I need to have a quote unquote better life as determined by whiteness. We can't even imagine. Like, forget leaving America and going to Africa, or leaving America and going to the Caribbean, or leaving America and going to any place that is Black, right? Forget that. We can't even reverse migrate. We can't even imagine reverse migrating.
That's what you and I did, right? We reverse migrated. We were in the land of the free.
Hey, but I didn't realize. You gotta have to speak for yourselves on that one, because you knew about Florida. I had not realized how, especially in Miami, how far south Florida was. You know what I mean?
It's the southernmost point of the United States, right?
Yeah, but when you think of, Will Smith done lied to me, Doc. Will Smith had me thinking, welcome to Miami, bienvenido a Miami. You know what I mean? And I got down there and ain't nobody told me that's what happened when you live in Biscayne. But if you live outside Biscayne,
literally right outside.
Right.
There's a place called Overtown.
Hey. So, what I was doing is I was trying to get closer to home. I was getting closer to the Caribbean. I was trying to get as close to the Virgin Islands as possible. Cause I gotta get back, man. Like, Babylon is gonna kill us, man. Like,
listen, you said something so powerful you don't even know it. Wait till you read the book "The Ground Is Shifted" by Walter Fluker. Wait, just
okay,
wait.
Okay.
So you trying to get back home. Home, Fluker argues in that book, is a place of wholeness. And if you're gonna get back home, you got to be willing to return. And that's where the principle of Sankofa comes into, because Fluker uses those principles in that book, The Ground Is Shifted. When you return back home, or turning, that idea of turning to return back home, you got to be able to remember the past so that you can retell the future. The future is that place that you're moving to in the present moment of reliving. So as I'm returning home to get to that future destination, I got to be able to always go back to the past to move forward, right? That's the principle of Sankofa.
Mm-hmm.
And so think about this. You say I got to speak for myself. Well, I'm gonna speak for myself, because when I met you in DC, I used to always talk about Florida being the what? Jim Crow South. I used to tell you that. Florida, bruh, Florida is the Jim Crow South. I know we watch Bad Boys and Bad Boys too. I know we heard Rick, not Rick Ross, yeah, no, man, Trick Daddy. Say
Uh-huh.
305, take it, you know what I'm saying? You know, I grew up on that. I love it. That's who I be. But at the same token, I know the stand your ground laws are just reformed black codes from the 19th century. I know that stuff, but sometimes we have to return because you are on your way home. You trying to get home, but you return. Y'all ain't feeling me. I feel like preaching up here. but we have to return. And that's the whole thing about wholeness, is that as we return, we can remember what has been dismembered. And so that's the thing that we're talking about on this segment, on this set. We're talking about a black state. We're talking about all of that stuff, but really we're talking about what is home.
Right.
To the Negro.
Right.
To the free Negro.
Right.
Because see, not anybody can return home. You got to be free to return home. Listen, it took...
You got to be free to realize you ain't home.
Hello. That's the confrontation. The confrontation is being able to accept and surrender to hard truths that we wouldn't otherwise deal with. Listen, in order for us to return home, we got to know first we ain't home. We lost. We are just simply pilgrims, strangers, traveling through a barren land. They were
How can we sing King Alpha's song in a strange land? Hey, that's what the Dreads always say. By the rivers of Babylon, where we sat down, and there we wept as we remembered Zion. And the wicked carried us away to captivity, required from us a song. And we always step in that picture. How can we sing King Alpha's song in a strange land?
And check this out, bruh, is that's theology. That's where we come in. That's theology. That's Psalm 137. Read it. That's theology. The theology is, see, we ain't quoting Bart, we ain't quoting Tillett, we ain't quoting these white boys. So, you know, in the imperial institution of the United States of America, they would say, well, we don't have any ideologies of, you know, methodological strategies to support that. No, we don't need that because our ancestors sang it. That's why Jabril could sing it. And when he was singing it, you saw him moving, you saw him dancing, because when you are talking about theology, it's embodied. And that's what we're doing now. We are embodying a theology, and especially when you're free, you trying to get home, you trying to get whole. And so those folk who were singing these songs, those folk who you quoted from Frat Book, they were talking about this question: how in the hell do we get home? Returning.
Amen.
Returning.
Amen. 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 Because it's like, man, I ain't trying to be raising my child. I don't want to raise another child to have to navigate whiteness. You know, I lost my son over that. You know what I mean? Like, my son decided to go on his sojourn early. He ain't ready to be out there, but he decided to go out there. Why? Because he couldn't believe it. Daddy telling him, it's my fault because I went and go live in the suburbs. And so now all he got is white friends. So when he tried to talk about what's going on, what the conversations are in his household, his white friends like, what, really? Man, that's not true. Your dad is this, your dad is that. This racism is dead. So, you know, he got to go experience for himself. But we gotta want home.
Yeah. And sometimes, and you know, and I'm gonna say this, man, to you, bro, because we talked about that too. You know what I'm saying? And man, everybody's journey is so different in order to return home. Some people never make it. Some people, they go elsewhere and they find their own ideology of home. But some people like you and I, we're fighting to get home because we know what home isn't. And we're not going to accept somebody else's ideology and definition of home is for us. And we're not going to do it for our family. So, man, I'm going to tell you, man, I commend you for doing the work that you are doing and you continue to do as a Black man, as a father. Man, I speak that affirmation over you, man. Because the fact that you may not have been ready to release your son to find his journey of home, you was willing to surrender and allow him to do it. And that's what the father did. That's the whole story of the father. I hate to call it the prodigal son. I hate that. That is a bad interpretation of that story. It should be called the wholeness of a great father, something like, you know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, it's about how a father shows his love to his sons because of his wholeness. And so that's what you're doing, man. You're allowing your son to experience his journey. And man, and so I say I commend you because, I talked to you about this. I'm like, man, I don't want any kids. I don't want any biological kids because I have not found home. So I dare
real consideration, man.
Yeah.
That's a real consideration.
Yeah. And I'm like, man, I dare not bring my mother's grandchild into a place, and we're pilgrims. That's just me, though. That's me. I'm not whole, y'all. That's why I'm saying I'm trying to find home. I'm trying to get whole.
It's a hard consideration, right? And especially for the free Negro, right? Like, it's another reason I talk about the VI. When I took my wife down there, my wife and daughter, most recently, they've been down a couple times now, but took them down there, and I was like, just basking in those crystal clear waters, and being able to say, like, look, understand, here she's just a girl. She doesn't have to be this way because this is how Black girls are interpreted. She cannot do this, she can't do that. She gotta be careful how she do this, careful. She gotta curtail herself to fit the image, the proper image of a Black girl. No. She could be whoever she wanted to be. If she want to be, ain't nobody gonna be trying curtail her, whittle away her identity so that it can conform to white power's conceptions of Blackness. One of the reasons I had a rude awakening when I came to the States for college, because I hadn't been whittled away. I hadn't been told that I was limited. I hadn't been told that I couldn't do. I hadn't been told. It wasn't until I got here and it was like, wait, you mean I can't go someplace because I'm Black? What the hell are you telling me? My ideations hadn't been limited yet. And as a free person, why do we continually want to subject our children to that? And that's, if we've never thought of it like that, then we got to realize that we ain't free. And I hadn't thought about it like that until, a couple years ago, Otherwise, I wouldn't have moved into the suburbs. I would have understood different, that it is better for my son to be around Black school administrators who wouldn't let him, he had a mental level IQ. And his teachers would let him get D's and F's. They wouldn't even tell us he wasn't doing work until the end of the semester. If he was at an inner city school, he maybe wouldn't have had a laptop like he did out here. But he damn sure would have had at least some administrator that would have cared that he was wasting his talent. that he was burying his talent in the sand, looking to give the Lord back just what he gave him originally. But you know, we don't think about all the various nuances to providing a better life for our children when you're Black in this world.
Facts. Facts.
And so to me, for people who clearly can't leave America, you know, to some degree, okay, you don't have to, you shouldn't have to. And if you don't want to, then we got to have our own state. It ain't gonna happen if we're spread across the country, because we won't have enough political power to make sure that Black lives matter.
Mm. Mm.
I don't agree in begging Black lives to matter. The hell with y'all if y'all don't believe Black lives matter. If y'all want to argue about it someplace else.
Man, let me tell you what my dad used to say, to your point right there. Something my dad used to say to me, son, you can't make people like you. Son, you can't make people love you. Son, you can't make people value you. All you can do in this world is be who you are. Whether they like you or not, whether they accept you or not. Yeah, listen, shouts out to those of you all who are marching, you know, in these streets, especially during COVID. Shouts out to the allies, all of that stuff, man. We thank God for you. But at the end of the day, personally, I can't be out there marching if you don't like me. That's just me, man.
Again, I can't be out there marching because what are we marching for? We ain't marching for justice. We are not marching for justice. You will not get justice from a people who do not submit to the just one. All you will get is piecemeal solutions to appease you. And I know that already. Why am I going out there? I know we ain't gonna get no justice for Breonna Taylor. Yes, her parents get $12 million, a lot of money. There ain't no justice. Justice is repentance. It is not even some policies. Policies will come, yes. Money might even come. Reparation will come, yes. But it is a human disposition. Anything less than that is simply appeasement, simply what expediency required. You knew if you didn't do something, you'd have some shit on your hands. Not because you really believe in justice. I ain't going out there marching, man.
Yeah. And listen, again, I am not shading anybody who is marching. I'm not doing that. Because everybody has, you know, they have their way.
Let me be clear. Let me be clear too. I'm not shading them either. I'll say I'm not shading them either. What I will say is this: people are frustrated. It's incumbent upon the intelligentsia, the quote unquote talented tenth, as Du Bois would argue. It's incumbent upon the talented tenth, of who arrogantly I believe I am part. It is incumbent to shape a way to direct that frustration. We are not giving the people any place to direct their frustration except some nonsense that ain't gonna get them nothing. I don't fault the people out there for marching because they're mad and they got a right to be mad and they need to let off that steam. But where are we, especially we the church, where are we directing them?
Yeah. And also, I'm a situationalist. And one of the approaches that Dr. Fluker talks about, it's in the book, Ethical Leadership. I have it with me, but in this book, Ethical Leadership by Walter Earl Fluker, he gives 8 approaches. And these 8 approaches of leadership is what he calls ethical leadership. And one of those approaches is the situational approach. I am a situationalist. Harriet Tubman was a situationalist. Listen, if Harriet Tubman, for instance, and this is documented in another book, Bound for the Promised Land, by Katie Larson. Okay. Kate Larson talks about in the intro that Harriet Tubman, this was her last pilgrimage. She had twins, 18-month-old. They were crying. It's in the blistering cold. And the patty rollers are out because there's a bounty on their head, and many of the enslaved people were running away from plantations. But the 18-month-old are crying. It's cold outside. They are hungry. They're on the run. Harriet Tubman gives those 18-month-olds opium so that they could be quiet. But here is the thing. My question in the grand scheme, because I'm talking about the situational approach, is what is the best solution so that we can remain in community? And this is going back to
what you mean by remain in community?
What is the best solution wherein we can remain in community? And this is just going back to what you mentioned at the beginning of this live stream, talking about the Black state. Black state is a great way, probably the greatest way, wherein we can remain in community. And when we remain in community, we can protect one another. We don't have a community. So as a result, our sons and our daughters are vulnerable. That's why we have the hashtag in the first place, Black Lives Matter, because we have been dismembered in our communities. Community is designed to protect and serve our people. And we can't do it because we have been dismembered.
Exactly.
We don't have it. And that's what you're talking about. That's what we're talking about on this thing. So as a situationalist, and those other guys, who you specifically talked about in that book that you read, he's a situationalist. He's looking at, listen, we gotta do whatever it takes to protect community. Delaney and Henry McNeil Turner, those guys are doing the same thing. Now, they may have looked at Africa, but this guy's looking at Oklahoma. You're looking at Georgia, right?
Right.
So we're looking at places wherein we can be in community so that we can be whole. We can return home. This is the premise of our conversation tonight, is what can we do to return home? Mm-hmm. There's protection in the home. there was blood in the home, relatives, your friends. Listen, you won't invite everybody into your home. Now, it's not to say that people are not welcome, but if you really want to build a relationship with them, guess what the best place you're going to send them? Home.
And people know the climate at home. You know what I mean? Right. You go to visit somebody's home, man. You could be any kind of person. Me, I cuss a lot, man. I go into some people's home, I ain't cussing. Not because I can't cuss, but the vibe in the home doesn't even make it conducive.
It's sacred.
You know, I won't even say that, man, because I cuss in sacred space, man. Like,
but here's what I mean by sacred. Sacred means this, is that you have a genuine reverence for someone else's space.
And I see how they treat their space.
Exactly.
If they cuss in their space, it's welcome.
That's sacred.
You know what I mean?
It's sacred.
You know, if they don't smoke in their space, okay, cool. Now, 9 times out of 10, I tell people I ain't going to a place I can't burn my con. I can't smoke my weed. I ain't going. But I ain't gonna disrespect it either. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna say, because you respect people's space. So all of that to say, like you said, it's not like you're not welcome anybody else who's not part of the fam. But once you get, if we know who we are and conduct ourselves accordingly, anyone who comes to see who we are will conduct themselves accordingly.
Exactly.
No matter what views they have. They may be the most white supremacists of white supremacists. They will act accordingly when they come see us.
Hello.
You know, like I said, I remember I was a child, man, in St. Thomas, U.S. Virgin Islands. Yes, at All Saints Episcopal school, cathedral school. And we private school kids, man. Nobody's scared of no private school kids, but we private school kids walking down the street. I had to be in middle school, maybe even elementary, but it was like early middle school, I think. Me and a couple friends, grown white man walking down the street, come out of bar, pissed. I hate niggas. He looked back and saw us, little children. He was like, oh, I'm sorry. And got real scared and briskly walked away. Like, you conduct yourself accordingly. You realize where you are. And around free Negroes, you conduct yourself accordingly. Now, you and I both know, if you and a bunch of your friends at that age walking around and some white man, grown white man, was mad at some black people and said niggas and saw y'all, more than likely he was not going to apologize. If he was the type of man to say out his mouth niggas, he is also not the type of man that's going to apologize to a bunch of nigga children. He may apologize to some thugs on the street if he's in the wrong neighborhood, but he ain't apologizing to no little kids.
Nope. But I'm gonna tell you a story.
We create a space like that in America, in the mainland America. Oh, they're gonna understand. Them very same cats who killed Ahmaud Arbery up in Brunswick, Georgia, if Georgia becomes black, them very same ones would understand. I gotta conduct myself differently now. They say under their breath because them niggas is in charge, but they ain't gonna say it out loud, and that's cool. I don't care if you racist, be racist in your own house. Just don't think that your disdain for the mattering of my life entitles you to abuse me.
Yeah. Man, I think about, because that whole, we've been using the Exodus narrative in our conversation. So, the whole book of Exodus is a great book. But then read the book of Deuteronomy and then read the book of Joshua. Like, read it in its entirety. I like reading those books in its entirety. I read it like, any other book. I read it in its entirety because it's a great story that's happening. Because now when we talk about, so I'm a practitioner, I like to look at the how, And so I'm like, if we're talking about a black state, then here's what it means. You're talking about Georgia, and you mentioned Brunswick, where Ahmaud Arbery was martyred because of who he is. He was martyred. Today is St. John Coltrane's birthday. Shout out to the man who was the only person that took a Martin Luther King speech and improv the speech because of what King was doing after that march in Selma. He was sitting in that jail. Letters from that Birmingham jail, and Coltrane, with his great self, just improvs off that. And we're still living in this tension. But when you read the book of Deuteronomy and then you read the book of Joshua, especially that first chapter, when the Lord tells Joshua to go and possess the land, you're going to have to fight. You're going to have to put up a fight, because those same guys who were residents that shot and killed and martyred, lynched, assassinated Ahmaud Arbery, they're not going to give up their home. They ain't going to give up their land. That's why the whole Civil War was like that. Them folk ain't giving up their pie in the sky. But if we decide to do, we just got to know. It's going to be a fight. It's going to be a fight. And so I'm saying all that to say this is that, the Boys talked about in the book John Brown. W.E.B. Du Bois wrote a biography on John Brown. It's a great book.
Okay.
And
I don't even know that one. Okay.
Yeah. That's a slept-on book, but Du Bois does a great job of depicting the life of John Brown. He said that there are three types of people, three types of people who were enslaved. He said first it was the slaves that accommodated the slavery. Those are the people who ain't free. You know, I'm gonna be a slave. I'm secure. I'm straight. Then he said the second type of enslaved people were the ones who escaped. They ran away. But he said the problem with them was they never came back and helped other people escape.
Mm-hmm.
They stayed gone.
Mm-hmm.
But he said, then there's the third type. And this is what I want to call the free Negro. He said, the enslaved who were willing to fight, who was willing to give their life. And I think that's why we put the DOM after free. Because the DIM costs you your life. If you're going to be a free Negro, like Dr. King and Malcolm X, you know, and others who have given their life, Medgar Evers and others, you know, it's going to cost you your life. And this is what you were saying in the episode last week.
I can't say that it will cost you your life, right?
Why not?
No, because we have the witness of the Exodus. The ones who died in the wilderness were the ones who didn't believe. The ones who had to be
enslaved, right?
The ones who had to be cycled through. You know what I mean? They still longed for Egypt, but the ones who longed for a homeland, they walked into the promised land. You know, I think you have to be willing to sacrifice your life.
You do.
And I know you will lose your life in the sense that, you know, you won't live like you live now.
Now let's unpack that. You say you won't live like you live now.
Meaning various things. Meaning, if you are a Negro who enjoys sub-0 degree weather and you live in Minnesota, in Georgia, you ain't gonna get sub-0 degree weather. You ain't gonna live like you used to live. You might get some snow in the mountains, maybe. And that sounds petty, you know what I mean? But it is that basic. It's also more complex. You may not live in, you know, let's say you live out in Montana. You may not live on a big 500-acre estate. You may not live in a 4-bedroom house that you only paid $100,000 for. You may only be able to get a 2-bedroom house. Who knows what the different variants of sacrifice will be, you know? But knowing what won't be should be enough. You know what I mean? If it means that, you know, I don't know, I'm gonna lose access to this, because that's what it's always about. It's always about access to something, access to some convenience, something we prefer, some preference that we've developed and acquired. And you just gotta be willing to lose access. But that's the thing, we have not been willing to lose access. We prefer whatever access we have to white privilege. And so we want to remain close to whiteness, so that even though we know we can't get white privilege because of our blackness, we know we will have access to white privilege. We know that we are, like you say, the richest Negroes on the planet. And so we take pride in that. You know, the same way poor white trash takes pride in, at least I'm not a nigger. You know, Black Americans take pride in, at least I'm not a Black African or a Black Caribbean, or, you know.
Or poor Negro, right?
Right. But even the poor Negro will say, at least I ain't a Black African.
Right, you're right about that.
So until we're willing to lose whatever access to white privilege, you know what I mean? That's the life we gotta be willing to lose.
Yeah, and I think that's a death too, right?
Yeah, no.
Because
That's why. That's exactly why I say it. You know what I mean?
yeah,
When we talk about, lose your life, and people think, oh, it means I'm going to die. It's like that morbidity there. To me, doesn't come from God, right? Because when we look at the God of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, they didn't die trying to get their inheritance. They died in a sense, like they lost their life. Abraham lost the life he had in Ur. You know what I mean? Jacob lost the life he had in Canaan. I mean, wherever, I can't remember what land it was. Joseph lost the life he had in Canaan. So they died. But you know, Black people have preferred physical death to spiritual death. We've preferred to stay in a godforsaken place and in a godforsaken situation and endure physical death for the sake of whatever, of the white man's shiny things we can come across, rather than, dying ideologically, dying, mentally to all of this shit, and being willing to embrace a life where white power does not rule the day. I mean, we see it even in other countries, right? Like most of them Negroes in Africa, most of them countries in Africa, they still appealing to whiteness. They're still looking, for white power to help them out, instead of looking to self. The whole African diaspora need a back to Africa moment. So that's what I would say in terms of dying, man. Not so much. I don't think the focus is so much on dying physically, although some people may. You know what I mean? I don't believe we have to. I don't believe we have to. Like, look, white folks, this is what y'all say y'all believe in. Now, some of us may have to. Some of them may decide to fight. Look, white folks, this is what y'all say y'all believe in. That y'all don't want to be around us. Okay, cool. We don't want to be around you either. You know what? We'll even gift you and help you get out, help you move. You want to move? Hell, we'll help you move. They'll say, well, I don't want to move. I've been on this land forever. Shit, white folk, I don't want to move. I've been on my land forever. So we both doing something we don't want to do. Thanks be to God. But until we demand in America where the reality is both of us have to do something that we don't want to do, because right now all it is we got to do what we don't want to do. They ain't got to sacrifice nothing. That's the death that needs to die, in my mind.
absolutely.
And I hope that's a death people are more willing to embrace. I know people ain't gonna be willing to embrace, a physical death. But maybe a death to self, a death to reality, those realities, which is what the gospel imperative is anyway, right? Die to self and live for Christ.
Death in terms of no longer will I be dismembered.
Right. Put to death the old man.
Yeah.
And live in the new man. Put to death the inferior self, the inferior Black self, so that the free Negro can live. And I don't care what people say. Like, a lot of us say we're free. We ain't free. And even a lot of us free Negroes, myself included, I ain't free yet. I know I ain't free yet, though.
Me neither.
You know what I mean? That's why I know, that's the definition of a free Negro. You can realize when you're not free.
Right.
You look around, you're like, nah, this shit ain't home. Like we were saying, where is home? This ain't home. But those who would believe that a vote for Joe Biden is going to change their life. It's going to make everything right in America. I honestly, really, literally don't know what we're voting for. Like, I don't. You know, I know people will say, oh, because we got a racist in the White House. Man, we got a racist in the White House all the time.
Facts.
You know, they'll say, oh, you know, well, they haven't been as abusive as him. Well, no, that's not true. They haven't been as loud as him with their abuse. You know, they may have played the saxophone and lulled us to sleep while they abused us. But they were abusive. Clinton was abusive. You know, you read Michelle Alexander's work, more black folks got locked up under Bill Clinton's regime than under Bush and Reagan combined.
You better know it.
So, but the problem is when Bush and Reagan were in office, we were awake. When Clinton got in office, we went to sleep. When the next Bush got into office, we woke up again. When Obama went into office, we went back to sleep. Trump got us wide awake. Trump got us on speed. Trump got us like, woo, don't close your eyes. We so tired of holding our eyes open. The minute Biden get elected, we going on a long sleep, Doc. We going on a long sleep.
We's tired. We need to
man, we gonna rip Van Winkle. Both of us, black folk and white liberals, gonna whip Van Winkle. We going to sleep. White folks been working hard lifting. You know how hard it is for them to lift a little bit of white supremacy. They've been working hard to deal with some of their white fragility. They looking for a reprieve. Man, the minute Joe Biden, gradualism will come right back. All of that, Dr. King, why we can't wait? These white folks gonna be like, hey, hold on. Whew. Let's catch our breath. Come on now, we got Biden back in office. We can catch our breath. Doc, everybody going back to sleep.
But that's the whole point that you've been saying is that, you know, that whole idea of going back to sleep because we have no vision of where we're going.
You can go to sleep if you got a state. If you got a black state, because you know what? Governor so-and-so, we done elected you to do the work. So you can take a little rest.
You to do it.
You can take a little rest now. You know what I mean? Because we got a state house, a state legislature, a federal delegation, a governor, police people, all of them report to us. We can afford to go to sleep for a little while. No, you can't sleep forever because politicians are politicians and they're going to do what they always do. But you can afford to take a little bit more of a breather. But when the balance of power ain't changed and the dynamics going to remain the same, man, the worst thing in the world is going to be to go back to sleep. And
yeah, man. There's some heavy stuff to think about, though. Something to chew on. Something to chew on for our audience.
Yeah. What do you think of the process of creating a black state, or not, and again, not like, oh, there's no state that exists, or creating a new state out of nothing, or the provisional government, Republic of New Africa used to talk about seceding from the Union and take claim in these states. Even the Nation of Islam used to talk about acquiring some states and becoming its own country. And I'm not talking that. You know what I mean? I'm talking claim a state, stay loyal to the Union. Just by moving in and becoming the balance of power and being intentional about it. Will it entail fighting? Probably a little bit, I guess. Doesn't have to. We've already seen what happens when black folks move into neighborhoods, white folks move out.
And why do we want to stay? Looking at this whole too, because we're talking about wholeness, right? That whole spiritual aspect as well is returning home, getting back to the community, remembering in our history what has also been dismembered.
Mm-hmm.
Man, probably the greatest time that we had as a people was probably between 1865 and 1876. You know what I'm saying? People had their own lands. People were getting married. You know, things of that. So, you know, it's not just only about, because these stuff matters too, you know, about maintaining the you know, that matters. All of that matters. It's about all of that along with.
Right. And
so it's just something to think about.
Right. Right. It's not negating the other. It's layering on top of, and like, yo, yes, the voting matters, right? Because that's the way you secure a democracy. But in a Republican form of government, understanding the levels of power that exist, would it not be far better for us to use our vote far better? You know, to make sure that, you know, instead of a congressional delegation, you know, instead of a couple Congress people from this state, a couple Congress people from that state, a couple Congress people from the other state, each with various competing agendas, because Black people catch hell differently in different parts of the country. So the things that are affecting Black people in Virginia are not the same issues as are affecting the Black people in Texas, are not the same issues as are affecting the Black people in Michigan. Or, you know what I mean? So yes, we may want to be united, but I got different priorities, because in Michigan, I got to worry about them poisoning the water.
Yeah.
While in Louisiana, I got to worry about them drowning us.
Yep.
You know, so rather than that, where we can't unite on big things, creating the dynamic where, oh no, we just got one huge Black delegation. And in terms of federal funding for our constituents, for our districts, that's all arguing for federal funding coming to one state. And then on those very quintessential American arguments, you will know where the Black voice, since they always want us to speak as a monolith anyway, right? You will know where the Black voice stands, and it will be upon the rest of y'all to explain the shit that we end up in. Because we'll be clear as the Black vote. We will be clear where we stand on raising the debt ceiling, where we stand on sanctions on this country, where we stand on, you know, aid to these people, where we stand on immigration, where we stand. It will be known where we stand, and we will make an argument and a patriotic argument for our position, that you all can then say, you know what? Yeah, we don't care, which is what you say anyway. But in that instance with the state, we will be able to implement those things for us, and also for the benefit of those issues that we stand for. You know what I mean? Like some states, you know, they enact, you know, states' rights. We enact our jurisdictions. We apply the federal resources we control. So no, the rest of y'all can go about, you know, deporting, you know, people in temporary protected status and so on. No, no. You know what, Haitians who in Florida, y'all got a problem? Come on over to Georgia. We got you. If you make it to here, we got you. We can't say that now. All we can do is complain under our breath, because we don't control no territory. We don't determine the law that will rule the land. You know, in every instance, we are simply subject to the law. You know, so it's all about rule of law. I ain't gonna be nothing but about rule of law. Like I told you, my dad was a chief deputy U.S. Marshal. My mother was attorney general. Like, law enforcement is my family blood, man. Like, so, you know, that's the question, right, bro? Like, just to clarify it for folk, you know, like, what do you think of the idea of coming together to claim a state for Black power. I think that's the clearest way I can ask it. What you say?
I agree with it. That's the clearest way. That's the clearest way.
Yeah. Because a charge to keep we have, brothers and sisters, a God to glorify, a never dying soul to save and fitted for the sky. We didn't come a long way, but Lord knows we got more to go. So let us march on till victory is won. Peace.